Hey guys, Elaine here, back again. Today I'm going to share with you a topic that I've been quite passionate about for many years now, but it has become extremely apparently on my mind the last couple of weeks. This revolves around multi-passionate entrepreneurs or people. Maybe you haven't made the jump into entrepreneurship yet. Maybe you've been thinking about different businesses and you haven't quite started yet. But this video is geared towards multi-passionate entrepreneurs and multi-passionate people. So first, I'll share the guilt. The guilt that I was always made to feel and to take ownership and responsibility. I won't say made, right? But the guilt that I was conditioned to feel through what I've been taught and told by my family, by my peers, by society, about like people who have many interests. The guilt that I've always felt or, made to feel or conditioned to feel is that I cannot commit, that I am not focused, that I am like just playing around, messing around and always uncertain. So the feedback I always got from my parents is that I'm X age now, right? So they've been telling me this my whole life. Whether I was about to be 18, they're like, you're almost 18 now. You gotta make these decisions and commit to this and this and this. Then it was like, you're almost 30 now. So at this age, I already did this, and this, had 2 kids, and look at your relative ABC, they're doing this, and this, on track to achieve and get and buy and have ABC. And so I've just really heard that throughout all stages of my life, whether it was when I was kind of messing around at school and I didn't really take it seriously, whether it was when I finally got into multiple like UC schools, which was a big deal and no one thought I would get in, to me kind of not really knowing exactly which major I wanted to take on, to me really like getting started early in the workforce and then not choosing the career that they had in mind for me. And so like I'll say this, there's something I've always been certain of ever since I was a kid. And I was being interviewed on a podcast the other day and I shared this and I was like, ever since I was a little girl, I knew I wanted to make a difference. I knew I wanted to inspire people to use their voices, to be authentic, to go after their passions. And a lot of that stemmed from my childhood, like feeling like I had no voice, feeling like I had to obey the rules or be punished. So even though I had a, traumatic / childhood where I felt like who I was inside and my deepest desires could not be revealed, otherwise I would get in trouble, there was also a very rebellious part to me where I knew I was still going to pursue my dreams. I knew I was going to make something of myself, and I knew that I likely was not going to walk the path that was carved out of me, or carved out of me, the path that was carved out for me, and the path that was expected of me. So I knew that at a very young age, and I've always been a dreamer. I've always wanted to help people, no matter what it was that I did. I knew it was going to be creative, and I knew that it was going to serve the world. And I got asked why. Like, why did you know that at a very young age? And I was like, well, maybe because I experienced a childhood that was filled with, I guess, sadness, anger, abuse, things that a child should not go through. And so I was like always daydreaming. I was always wishing, like hoping and like daydreaming of a time that I would be free from all of this and that no one else would have to experience some of the shitty things I've experienced. So I guess I really built up empathy at a very young age, which is why I wanted to save the world, however that looked like. And in the beginning, I think towards the end of elementary school to like middle school, I was like thinking all these different things around like the arts, right? The arts. And then I started gearing myself towards like maybe the nonprofit realm, right? I had a huge passion for like, uh, like domestic violence, right? Like how to fight that. I had a huge passion of like, the prison system, the justice system. I was like, this doesn't seem right here. So I did a bunch of different nonprofit work, even in high school. Like I went to City Hall, I spoke there. I was a part of this group called Young Asian Women Against Violence. I went to juvenile hall to talk to kids. So there was all these different things that I like dabbled in to see what sparked me, and all of them did. However, I later on found out in my adult life that there's so many rules and regulations to nonprofits that I was like, ooh, I can barely follow the rules at school, at work, and I'm always like thinking outside the box. I don't think the nonprofit world is for me. But let me go ahead and go interview a bunch of founders, right? Board members from nonprofits, and see what it's really like. I was very candid. They told me that I was asking all the right questions, and that yes, it's super regulated, and yes, there's so many hoops to kind of jump through. And knowing me, a not the best rule follower, I was like, I don't think nonprofit is the way I'm gonna go. As I was debating, like not debating, as I was pretty certain I was going to leave my 9 to 5, right, working for the man, and go off to do something that was more meaningful for me, because it wasn't just about money anymore. I gave you that backstory because that was the beginning of me in my mid to late 20s, 27-ish, 25 to 27-ish was when I was like, what is the meaning of my life aside from making good money, traveling, going to festivals, and spending like I was making more than what I was making, right? It was a 6-figure job, but I definitely had no money in the bank, no plan B. Just knowing that where I was in this moment, even though it could mean more stability, more money, more status, more whatever, it wasn't fulfilling me. So I gave you that backstory because that was the beginning of me taking the dive into entrepreneurship. I decided to turn down the partner position. I decided to not just turn it down, but like quit that job and go off on my own to create things that I'm passionate about. And like, I was deadly afraid to tell my parents, Chinese parents, first generation American, Chinese American. And I was deadly afraid to tell them because WTF, like, what is this thing called entrepreneurship when you have something so good? They were finally starting to like be proud of me and brag about me instead of talk shit. So I was like, okay. And what is this thing about entrepreneurship when you don't even quite know how you're gonna make the money, right? I'm someone that's very passionate. I'm a hard worker. I'm a very dedicated, committed person. However, I don't always plan from steps A through Z and, 8.1 and 8.2 and all that. I'm just more of like, if I feel a calling and a deep desire and a burning passion inside me, I'm the type of person that will do whatever it takes to make that happen and make it work. Not what our parents and society teaches us. It's very, here's a roadmap, here's how you follow it. And so that began to be the series of crazy decisions I made, and it didn't really make sense. So I went from leaving, quitting, packing my shit, moving from San Francisco to New York, and I started this music and charity platform called Neon Owl. And when you say the word charity, that is like a triple no, right? So not only did you quit your job, you're starting your own passion project, your own business, your own company, and it has to do with charity. How can you feed charities and other people when you can't even feed yourself? Because how are you going to make money? And in that moment, it was not about making money, right? It was about how do I create impact through something I'm so passionate about music, electronic music to be specific, right? I was like, oh, life is not about the money. I just want to create a lasting impact through this universal language that connects all of us. So you can imagine the look on my parents' face when I finally slowly eased them into what I was up to, because I was scared. So I was like, okay, I know marketing. My background's in business development, sales, marketing. Like, I know how to make money. And so, like, I took on jobs. I guess I took on clients. That's a better word. It wasn't jobs, but I took on clients where I helped build their social media, their branding, and that business evolved into its own thing over time, right? At first I was like, I love social media, I love storytelling. I'm going to help small businesses do that. People that are great at what they do, they're passionate with their small businesses. Oh, I was using this sponge, by the way, to put on makeup, so I'm holding it. Anyways, I gotta put this away. So I was like, let me do that. Like, I was great at that. Working for the man, right? I was great at that, doing that for my own Instagram, right? Starting my own Neon Owl platform. I was like, let me help small businesses do that because A, I can make money, B, I can help small businesses, and C, I don't have to sacrifice the integrity of what it is that I'm doing as I'm building up this music and charity platform. And so my parents like, what are you doing? What's this like? Obviously, they don't know anything about the internet and branding and Instagram and social media, and they're like, WTF. And so that was like my kind of second pivot, right? And then from that, I was like, okay, I see, I'm doing this. And I guess I have more of a passion of working with people that are also wanting to make a difference through their story, through their voices, right? Like, I want to work with people and businesses that are passionate about making a difference, not just coffee shops. Not that there's anything wrong with coffee shops. There's nothing wrong with coffee shops. I'm a coffee addict, but I simply wasn't feeling fulfilled now that I've tried it, I've dabbled in it, and I have clients. And I was like, how do I, now that I've done the craziest thing of all already, right? Quit my job, started my companies, moved across country from San Francisco to New York. Now, what's the next thing that's going to make me feel even more aligned with my purpose in this world? And as I was transitioning, and I was like, okay, I started working with like people that were looking to build communities, people that were looking to inspire, people that were looking to become and build their own brands and communities that was going to disrupt either their industries or a community in some shape or form. And I started getting really fired up, right? Like working with these types of people. And I say this because time and time again, as I was in these business masterminds, these groups for entrepreneurs, people always saw my passion. They're like, wow, how do you do so much? How do you juggle so much? And I'm like, when I'm lit up, I can just literally either go on no sleep, not recommended, right? Or I just figure out the buckets of time, the crevices I can squeeze things into and make it work. Because at the same time, it can come off as non-committal. So what are you doing? Are you doing this music and charity thing? You're working with DJs and festivals. You're doing some social media stuff. You're doing coaching, you're doing branding. Like, wow, that's so many stuff. That's so much stuff. And on one hand, right, people are like, that's amazing. You can do so much. And on the other hand, some of even my closest friends was like, what if you just went all in for one thing? Whether that's Neon Owl, right, your music, charity, DJs, and eventually artist development platform, because we launched open door sessions from that, which is all about connecting people in the music industry to be discovered, to be heard, their music, their brand. And, they're like, you're doing all this from networking events to charity events, to shows, to merchandise, to coaching, to managing clients. What if you only put all your eggs in one basket? And just the sound of that, right? Like, they came from a good place. These are my friends. These are people in my accountability group, in my mastermind. And they were like, you have so much energy. Imagine how much money you would make if only you went all in for one. Like, pick one. And, they were like, ideally pick the most profitable one. And I was like, I know. I was like, yes, imagine the impact and the money I can make from one project if only I decide to go all in. Because there is a downside, right? There is a downside to being multi-passionate. There is a downside to working multiple jobs or having multiple businesses and wearing multiple hats for multiple companies, different roles. There's a downside to that. And the downside to that is, yes, absolutely, compared to the person that is going all in on their one business, like one objective, one passion, one platform, I would be, yes, technically a lot slower to iron things out, to be able to scale my business, to be able to like dial everything down to the T to make this work, make this happen, make this explode. But no matter how many times I like tried to choose, I couldn't. And for the longest time, I actually spent like so much time and energy beating myself up over it. I'm like, oh, why can't I just like do this one thing? It's because my brain and my heart and my soul was not wired that way. And I knew that. I always knew that deep within. And sometimes my friends would joke, they're like, oh, you probably die before you commit to one thing only. And it really wasn't until recently, like it's this past year, I've been having my own like eat, pray, love year, right? Like I've created the income where I made almost just as much as I did when I was working my cushy job that I was telling you guys about, right, in my 20s. But because I always diverted so much of my passion and attention in different directions, all meaningful things to me, I never like exploded with one business. I never exploded with one business. And I would allow the feedback and what others said and all these people that were focusing on one thing, I would allow that to like seep into my brain and then kind of put me into a place of comparison and self-beat up. And it wasn't to the point where it's like, oh no, I'm comparing myself, therefore I should do what they're doing. No, I wouldn't make that decision because I knew that wasn't going to ultimately fulfill me doing one thing. I knew that was probably ultimately going to kill me. So I knew it, but I still let the emotions of it, right? The judgment get to me. And this last year, I'll say, like last year I was doing really amazing with my coaching business. Like I was taking on clients left and right, like things were just like flowing. And it was stressful at the same time. It was stressful and I wasn't doing a lot from joy anymore. It was like, oh, cool. Like I can help this person build her vision or his vision, her project, his passion project, her business, his brand. And I was doing that. But I was doing that, and for any of my coaches out there that work with people one-on-one, that work with other like visionaries or people that want to make the leap, or they already have, but they're kind of unclear of where to go with their platform and where to start as an entrepreneur, it can be really draining. Because shit, I can imagine like all the things that I was going through when I made the jump from employee to entrepreneur. It was tough. And to take on whatever, 7 clients or 10 clients, not only does it take up your brain power to teach the marketing, the branding, the storytelling, but you're also taking on the emotional aspect, right? When someone's like, I don't know if I can do it, I can't do it, and then the accountability piece, right? Of like making sure that they do give it all they got and follow through with what it is that they want to create. It ends up being like partial coach, partial branding consultant, partial therapist. And it was just taking such a heavy toll on me because I had my other businesses to run. I had my other events to put together. I had my own other like charities to work with. And I just like broke down. I broke down because I had built something that I thought I wanted so badly, to the point where I just forgot to experience the joy. Like, what brings me joy? Because in this very moment, last year, I was like, this is not scalable. Working with people one-on-one is taking too much of my energy. And I'm like, ooh, but if I let that go, this is like, I wanted to prove to myself, but I had to ask myself, is it really I wanted to prove to myself that I can do it? Or was it the fact that I wanted to prove to my parents that I made the right choice, that I can make the same amount of money, if not more, through doing this coaching thing or this neon owl thing, because they were so judging me and not waiting for me to fail, but they were like, we know best. And the best is you going back to work for the man to make a cushy, whatever, a couple $100,000. The best is not you. They're like, we know best. So we see you working so hard to do whatever these things are you're trying to do. So let us know when you change your mind and you're ready to go back to stability and ease. And from that, I just started working so hard to, I guess, prove that what I chose was the right path. And it like almost blocked me from allowing myself and giving myself the grace to be able to choose something different, or to be able to choose multiple things and not be so stuck with, I must make X amount through this type of success through this one or two things I've chosen. When in reality, I have like 50 different business ideas, right? 50 different projects. No, I'm not going to do all 50, but I wanted to work on a solid 5 that I was really passionate about. But I knew that working on the, whatever, 3, 4, or 5 projects wasn't going to get me to the success or financial achievement that I wanted for one or the other. Because guess what? Like we all have 24 hours in a day. We all have X amount of energy and X amount of bandwidth. So yes, it would be the smarter path if you chose one thing and went laser focused to create success, impact, abundance, money. But I wasn't feeling aligned with that, right? Like I was like, okay, here's the money's rolling in. But most of my time is spent doing this one thing, right? The coaching and my music and charity platform, where a lot of the money we make, I donate back, I give back, I host more events. I was like, do I want to toy around with all these other things I've been thinking that's been brewing in my head, but I haven't pulled the trigger on because I don't want to be judged of being non-committal again, choosing again, launching again, creating again, or as my parents calls it, playing around, right? Like dicking around basically. And I just like was in this crossroads of like F everything. And that's when I had a conversation with my partner, and he told me like, who are you having all these conversations with? Who's gonna judge you for that? Like all the things you're telling me, right? Because I ended up, by the way, spoiler alert, I ended up launching my greeting cards company this year. I ended up starting my own skincare business with Roden and Fields this year. Things I'm really passionate about. Because I've always been a huge collector and gifter and purchaser of cards, stationery, notebooks, planners, calendars, and I would buy greeting cards even though I didn't know who I was going to give it to, but simply because I knew one day someone was going to be a receiver of this beautiful card with this inspirational quote or this really cute teddy bear on it. And I've always wanted to start that. But I was like, oh man, like, are people going to view me as a dabbler? And I was like, and he was like, who are you? Who's judging you? You've created this amazing community, this huge community. You've created all this success. You're the one that's putting in the work. You're the one that's stressing out. It's your money. It's your bank account. It's your time. Who are you afraid of being judged by? And I was like, I was like, oh, well, he was like, are they going to stop loving you because you decide to take a step back from your coaching business, take a step back from your music and charity platform, right? And host fewer events? Who's going to be like, screw you, Elaine, I don't want to be your friend anymore, or I don't look up to you anymore? And I was like, I guess the conversation comes from the judgment of how I was raised, right? Like, even though I've made my own choices, even though I've been authentic to me, there's always that fear of not being accepted, right? And not being loved. And first, that stemmed from like that fear of wanting my parents' approval, because even though I did everything against what they wanted, and I'm already the black sheep, deep down inside, I believe that every child wants their parents' approval. I don't care how much personal development and transformational work you've done. I believe that every child still wants that pat on the back from mom and dad. And that's myself included. Like, I've created my own success, my own money, my own independence, really, ever since I was 18. So why am I sitting here last year at the age of 31? So much in fear of that. And I let that energy, right, that fear of not being accepted by my parents if I chose to do more things or a different thing, in following my passion, I let that transfer over to the community that I've built now, this massive community in the music industry. I was like, what if I'm no longer creating so many amazing events for them? Who's gonna create it? And I carried on that burden of like feeling like, oh shit, if I let the foot off the gas pedal, I'm not getting rid of it. My Neon Owl community, hell no, I'll never do that. But if I let the foot off the gas pedal, I will be judged and people won't like me anymore. When that's not true. Like, that's far from the truth, but it was the stories I've made up in my head due to the expectations that either others have of me or the expectations that I made up in my mind that others have of me. I'll say that again. The expectations that I've made up in my mind that others have of me. Maybe they don't give a shit. Maybe I can go work at Starbucks and they'll be like, cool. But it's all the pressure I put onto myself, right? All the burden that's like freaking backbreaking that I've made up in my head. Because I'm that high level achiever, right? I'm that A-type personality. I'm the person that's so hard on myself. I'm my worst critic. And when my partner told me that he'll love me either way, regardless of how big I grow my coaching business or Neon Owl, or if I decide to drop both or scale back on both and work on these things I'm passionate about, or have a skip year. I'm like, is that even a thing? Like, and he was like, go after what you want to do. Do what makes you happy. No one's here judging you for it. And I'll love you either way, whether you are a huge millionaire coach person or you work at Subway. I love Subway, so I would never be able to work there because I would get so fat. Yes, Subway is one of those fast food chains that I love. Is it fast food? I don't know if it's fast food, but I love Subway and I am the carb queen, so there's no way I'm working at Subway, guys. And so that was a year ago almost. And since then, I was like, okay, scaled back, let go of some of my coaching clients to rebuild something that's sustainable. So I don't have to work with so many one-on-one clients that takes up so much energy. It's not a bad thing. It's just not how I want to make my impact and money. If my vision is to impact millions and billions of people, I'm going to need to re-strategize and revamp how I produce my content to be able to reach more people than working with 10 people or even 100 people. I get to think bigger than that. And in order to do that, sometimes we get to take a few steps back. And with that, we took a cross-country road trip. We moved here to New York. His first time here, my second time moving back. And I launched my greeting cards company as well. I started working on it late last year and launched it in the middle of COVID when everyone was like, don't do it. And I'm like, fuck it. And skincare, something I've been so passionate about, decided to start my business with Roden and Fields. Let go of that judgment, even though the conversations comes up sometimes. They're like, oh, what if people are like, oh, why are you doing this direct sales company? Like, why are you doing this skincare thing, When in reality, who the hell cares? I had been into skincare since my teenage years when I had horrible acne. I've been using Roden and Fields for the last 3+ years. So it's my time. It's my empire. It's my legacy. It's my vision. It's my passion. So, and it's my money. So it's like, no one's making the money for me. I am. No one's paying my bills. I am. And so really, this last year has been letting go of all the things that I think will make me be judged by others and just really tapping into my why and my joy and what fuels me. And if it's doing 5 different things, which literally is what I'm doing right now, right? I'm still doing the coaching very minimally, doing Neon Owl. I'm still doing events, networking events for people in the music industry. I have my greeting cards company and I'm doing skincare. So be it. That I'm multi-passionate. And I just really started to embrace that in the last month or two. And really, maybe some people will see that as, oh my gosh, ADHD, what are you doing? And some people view that as inspiration, like, wow, you do so much. That inspires me to do a little more. That inspires me to start my side hustle. That inspires me to start my passion project. That inspires me to do some work with charity and causes I care about. Then that's my purpose. That's my purpose. And in this moment, it's not about like, what can I do that seems right to the external world outside of me? It's like, who do I get to be so that I'm a living, walking, breathing ray of light that actually walks the talk of going after what you love, the things you're passionate about, to inspire others and make a difference. I'm doing exactly that. So why must I be so hard on myself just because I was raised to commit, right? I was raised to follow this certain path. I am fucking committed. I'm committed to all the things I'm passionate about. It just happens to be not one thing. And that's like the realization that has made me feel a lot lighter in the last, honestly, recent months. Super recent, that I've just learned to embrace that and recognize that I'll never, ever, ever be the one thing girl, be the one business woman, and be the single focus, single passion type of person. I am multi-passionate and I embrace that. And for anyone else that resonates with this, I'd love to hear from you. And I want to let you know that it's okay. There's a lot of beauty in that. There's a lot of beauty and genius in that. There's nothing wrong if someone is into one thing. That's amazing. I envy you in so many ways because you can just focus on the one thing. But for some of us, and those of us that is constantly creative, you can't shut it down in your brain. and in your heart, right? That's okay too. So embrace that. One day at a time. Maybe one project at a time, but likely 2 or 3 or 5. So that's what I felt really called to share today. I'd love to hear from you guys, what you guys are working on. If you guys have any similarities or maybe major differences, comment below, like and subscribe. And I would love to hear what some of you guys are up to, what you guys have been creating during COVID, quarantine, and talk to you soon.